Hey guys, welcome. So Linux Mint 21.3 Mate. I've already done videos on Cinnamon and XFCE, so I decided to do one for Mate. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's new and giving you some general tips. If you actually click the new features, which I'm going to show you, most of the references are to the Cinnamon desktop. So if you are brand new to the world of Linux Mint Mate, I will give you some tips along the way. If you're a current subscriber, I will be rehashing some of my older tips, so just be patient with that. I never know when I have a new viewer or a new subscriber. So anyways, folks, you're watching this on Linux for Seniors. There should be an icon floating above the time and date thing or right around there. If you don't see it, go find me on YouTube, Linux for Seniors. If you're subscribed, I have 300 more videos for you to watch on all kinds of tips and tricks. So this is one of the wallpapers that came with the codename Virginia. That's the name of 21.3, and this is the Mate desktop, Mate. So you went through the release notes, you obviously installed it, now you're ready to go check and see what's new. Or maybe you did this ahead of time. What you're going to have is a lot of references to the Cinnamon desktop in here. Okay, I'm going to kind of scroll over this quickly. Cinnamon, Cinnamon, Cinnamon. Wayland is on Cinnamon, and again I have a video on that if you're curious about that. It explains in there how do you log into the Cinnamon. Again, there's more references to nothing but Cinnamon in here. So you do have Warpinator installed though, and that does have some new bells and whistles. And if you are going to use Warpinator for file sharing on your local network with a firewall, don't forget to import those firewall rules from the Warpinator program into your firewall. Artwork, this part here is still Cinnamon. I'll show you the difference. Right click, change background. It's a little different, isn't it? I added some extra ones in here too. Okay. New features. So you're down at the bottom of the page. The only thing that really is pertinent is the Linux kernel part. It ships with the 5.15, and that's sufficient for most people. If you have newer hardware, maybe you want to upgrade that to a 6.2 or a 6.5. I'll show you how to do that in this video. Long-term support strategy is until 2027. Now I'm done with this page and I'm going to close it. You do have some help with web forums and IRC chat rooms. I am not part of that, but there's some wonderful folks that can help you out there. Now I'm going to give you my take on everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make mention I got a cute little toy that's looking for my mouse pointer. You can see the eyeballs flying back and forth, just for something to have a little fun at the same time. Because sometimes this can be very dry. And I do encourage that you subscribe because this video will be more than 5 minutes. So the login window has a new feature, and it's the alignment. Normally your login screen has your user and password on the the left-hand side. I have mine set to right. So you also have left, which is default, and then center and right. It's not a stupendous update, but more importantly, you have some choices now. All this stuff remains. Don't get this confused that this is not your standard pointer. This is the login screen mouse pointer. Okay, with the drop-down arrow. Not to be confused with your standard one, which is found in the appearance section under customize under there. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. So let me talk about a couple of things. Do you have a NVIDIA graphics card? Now AMD graphics cards normally do not require a driver, and you probably won't find one, but the NVIDIA you will. The open source driver comes by default, and you can install the proprietary. It doesn't cost you anything except for time. Hit apply changes, does a reboot. It'll also install NVIDIA server settings. You can see the driver number. You can also get more information about memory. 4096 megabytes translates into 4 gigabytes. You can do the math online too. Printers. I have the luxury of an auto-discovered printer. In other words, I didn't actually put it in here. So most of my Linux distros automatically find this printer. It's a wireless printer. I can print from Linux, Microsoft Windows, and Macs, and also iPhones. So lots of choices. Brother is pretty good about Linux drivers also. If you go onto their webpage, if you're trying to add one, using the USB method and you're not having any success, go take a peek at their brother website. And then what kind of drivers? They normally have two. One would be RPM. That's not the one you want. You want the Debian version because Linux Mint is Debian based. Okay, moving along. Software Manager, Synaptic, and Terminal are three ways to install software on the system. I'll open up Software Manager. Another name for that is Mint Install. And this is 829. It's very simple. You click and very simple to install stuff. If you see an arrow, that means it has more than one package, or I should say different kinds. System package or flathub.org. Sometimes you'll have different screenshots and sometimes the version numbers are different. Sometimes not so much. Now that one is 3 and that one is 4, just to give you that example. So this will be a newer. So flathub.org, you can actually go onto that website and go take a peek at it yourself. And if you click the setup tab, you will see how many Linux distributions actually feed off of that system. So Software Manager contains software from Linux Mint, Ubuntu, and flathub.org. If you're doing searches, I'll just give you an example of GIMP. GIMP is similar to Photoshop, and you can see all the toys you can add to it. In other words, tools. And if you see foreign screenshots, don't worry about it. It normally installs the correct language packs. And this is 2.10.30. The Flatpak version is 2.10.36. Different screenshot also. Usually this is self-contained software. It doesn't need too many things afterwards. All right, if you are curious, I have a very simple video on GIMP on my YouTube site. If you're a subscriber, you can click the center section on a regular web browser and find that magnifying glass, not the one at the top, the one in the center. And you click that and type in GIMP, in other words, keyword. And I'll show you how to take a photograph of anything and make rounded corners with it. So GIMP is used for a lot of things. You can convert images, make icons, and even thumbnails. All of my thumbnails are done with GIMP on my Linux for Seniors YouTube site of 300 videos and my previous channel. So this is Software Manager. Now I'm going to click Synaptic to give you a package count. Some folks also prefer to use Synaptic to install software. 77,848 packages are listed here, but not Flatpak software. So that means you got more than that 77,000. The software comes from Linux Mint and Ubuntu. Okay. You can also install software in here by clicking. Mark it for install. It requires other goodies. You mark it and you hit apply. And then of course you have terminal. Okay. Software sources is the same thing I just showed you. It'll just show you the sources. Now, if you are shopping for RAM for your computer, whether it's a laptop or a console, it doesn't matter, or a tower computer, I should say. I sometimes refer to tower computers as consoles. It's just verbiage that I use. Your system information actually contains your motherboard information right there. This is the manufacturer. This is the model number. So yours will be different, but obviously you can right-click and copy that, paste it in a web browser, find your manual, find out what kind of memory you have, like DDR4, DDR3, blah, 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 and find out what your motherboard will accept. That way you can go shopping for RAM without opening up your case or tower computer or laptop or whatever it might be. You'll eventually have to open it if it's a laptop, but I'm just saying before you go shopping, it's a good idea to find out what kind of RAM you have. All right, the time and date, the time zone can be unlocked and changed in case you pick the wrong one during install. The time and date down here is right-click, preferences, and you can change your formatting from 24 to 12, with or without seconds and with or without the date. It's a pretty simple tool to use. All right, your update manager is down here, is where your Linux kernels are located. You can click the shield or you can click that. It doesn't matter. It opens up the same screen. I'll click it from here. I'm going to give you my Linux spiel, the Linux kernel spiel. If everything works on your computer hardware-wise, you're probably not needing a new kernel. However, there are some folks on here that have newer types of computer and maybe your toy is misbehaving. I'll give you an example. I installed Linux Mint Cinnamon 21.3 on a laptop using the 5.15 kernel and the touchpad wasn't working. I upgraded it to 6.2 and my touchpad is fine. That's one example for you. I do recommend that you possibly, this is just a recommendation, Time Shift. Open that, log it in. Time Shift is your system restore utility. You were asked to activate that during install. You can do a manual backup. Time Shift normally uses rsync to back up your stuff. Okay. I also have videos on rsync using script files and regular rsync and grsync if you're curious for regular backups. So let's talk about Linux kernels. It's under View, Linux Kernels. My suggestion is to get out a piece of paper and a pencil and write this down, or better yet, get out your smartphone if you have one, take a picture of this, or a digital camera, or whatever camera. Well, if you're using a film camera, it'll take you a while to develop the film, but anyways, you get the idea. Just make sure you understand how you can get into your advanced options. If you're going to change this kernel, normally you'll always be able to reboot, boot back into your previous kernel as long as you understand that process. So the kernel that you're currently using is going to be posted on this line. Mine is a 5.15. I did not alter this. I left it alone. So the 5.15 kernel is not only installed, but it's active at the same time. You cannot remove an active kernel. The 5.19 are expired or end of life, so we're not going to talk about those. 6.2, however, is available for you to install if you have newer hardware. Also the 6.5. These numbers will change with time. 2 months from now, that will be a different number more likely. Okay? Linux kernels. Everything works on your computer. Don't worry about it. Want to add some newer users? Click that. That way you can keep the kids out of your bookmarks and your household members, and they'll get their own not only bookmarks but also their own folders. Bluetooth, if you got them, I'm just going to skip over that. That's the GNOME disk utility. Your displays, screen resolutions are going to be different on your machine, and also refresh rates are going to be different on your machine, and possibly even scaling. I can't determine what you have based on this video, so you'll have to click that on your own. But anytime you're changing your screen res and refresh, hit apply. If the screen goes black for more than 6 seconds, do not panic. Do not turn off your computer. Allow it to time out. It'll revert back to where it was. Then you can try a different setting. It's sound advice, otherwise you may have some trouble down the road. All right, keyboard shortcuts are in here. You may want to become familiar with some of them. Your mouse pointer is not selected in here, but there are some different options, the left, right, and that kind of stuff. Your mouse pointer is actually down in Appearance under Customize under Pointer. These are installed in USR share icons. I show videos how to manually install mouse pointers also, if you hit subscribe. All right, power management is set, and you can change some of these settings to your liking. Your power management and screensaver play together. Unlike the Cinnamon desktop, the Mate desktop does offer you actual screensaver themes. If your graphics card is a decent graphics card, these will look kind of cute. Don't forget about the time factor. So screensaver and power management have a relationship. Your sound is over here, input, output, and sometimes you'll have different selection boxes. As in my case, my blue microphone sometimes wants to take over the output and I have to flip it over. So right now I'm using HDMI 2 for output, not input. Okay. Firewall is GovW and it does come turned off. So if you use Warpinator, for instance, for file sharing and you activate this firewall, do not forget to go into Warpinator on the Setup tab, last page, and import those rules into the firewall configuration for UFW or GovW. That would be this firewall. Your appearance, I do recommend screenshots if you're going to alter things. So you do have the, let me just pull it to the side so it's not so busy. There's a tool in here. If you type in SC, and let's try SCR. Okay, so the screenshot tool offers the whole screen, current window, or select. This is my favorite because it'll just make a picture of this box. That's all I'm going to say about screenshots. I do recommend that. Whatever is highlighted, because you have a drag bar and then there's lots of options. Same with the window borders and the icon sets. Why do I say this? I've heard this story so many times. I went and changed a bunch of things, but now I want to revert back to my original. Your screenshots are your friend when you do that. You should have 3 of these, 3 screenshots. The mouse pointer, not so much. You can change that without having to worry about what you were using before, unless you want to make a screenshot. Don't forget about the size down here. Size of the pointer. Okay. Now, if you decide to do installs and they're failing on you, you may want to take a peek at my videos. I normally have a 99% success rate, if not 100, to install mouse pointers. All right, let's move along. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you download those files. Desktop settings, if you want to see icons, you can certainly do that. The default is normally mounted volumes, and I just didn't want you to stare at those. That's why I turned them off. Now, on your desktop, under background, you have a couple of options in here. And more importantly, you also have some options in here. Just wanted to make mention of that. Okay, input, I'm going to skip over languages. I'm going to skip over main menu as an editor. I'm going to skip that. Pop-up notification. If you don't like the top right, then you can change that. All right, that's fairly simple. Again, the screensaver is something you can change, and it has a relationship with power management. The window, if you do the Alt tab, it'll just cycle through your programs. And then also on the second tab is the placement of these buttons. If you don't like them on the right, you can certainly move them to the left. And they just did it on both windows. It's immediate. I'll put it back to default. All right, where am I at? Windows. And I'll drag this down a little bit further. If you want to put in a mugshot or in other words, a sample, you have some in the USR Share Pix maps. And you can also do your own. Okay. Assistive technologies, you can click that to change that to preferred apps. Yeah, you can change those too. And the startup apps, I would be just very careful with. Don't turn off things like update managers and stuff like that. That would be not a good thing. Your shield here. So that's the control center. All right, so now I'm going to close all that, and let's start with the menu part. The height of this box is not what you're looking at. It is actually shorter, and so the icons are also different. Now, you can't grab the hold of the corner like some of the other desktops. You'll have to right-click and hit Preference, and then walk through this menu, and I'm going to walk you through this completely. So, you don't want to see the icon, you can certainly turn it off. It still works. And I wouldn't advise it. You can put in button text if you like. As you can see, I put that in there just so you understand this is Linux Mint 21.3. Sometimes when I do a customization of desktops, I put that in there because the icons are not exactly from the distribution sometimes. That's one of the reasons I put these logos in here. The button itself, if you don't like the black and white button, you can certainly pick the Linux Mint buttons here from the green ones, or you can browse for your own. Okay, what is the Super L? Some folks have this key on their keyboard and some do not. I'm using a tower computer, standard wireless keyboard, fairly standard computer mouse with a scroll wheel on it. I have a start key. It's Control, Start, and Alt on my left side of my keyboard. When I press that, that opens. If you don't have one of those, some people call them super keys, Windows keys. then you can assign your own. I'm going to do something silly and push in a C. Then I'm going to hit the C key, and that opens that up. Now I'm going to put it back to where I had it. Super L means just super left. Maybe you have the super right also. All right, a couple more places you can click on and off, and then we'll talk about appearance. So currently there's a white background here, and so is my file manager. All right, we're good to go on that. That's desktop theme. I'm going to override it with a dark. Now that's dark, and that's still white, or lighter color, in other words. I'm going to go back to default. Now let's talk about the actual icon sizes. They're all different. My favorites are the biggest ones. They're 50. The application ones are 36. The system ones are 34, and the places are 32. You can select these, and if you're worried about what your defaults were, may I suggest a screenshot. Okay, now I'm going to continue. Favorites, I'm going to skip over. Applications. The search bar is at the bottom. Do you want it at the top? If you do, turn this on. It's now at the top. I was looking for calculator. There it is. System. This is normally off. This is the height of the box. It didn't change my icons. It changed the height of the box. I'm going to go to custom. I have mine set to 550, but I'm going to reduce that number to 100. Just to give you that example. As soon as you put in a number, hit enter on your keyboard. This is now shorter than normal. And then I'm going to put in, I'm filming in 1920 by 1080, so this is all subjective to your screen resolution. I am going to put in 700 on my machine. And this should go to the top of the box. Completely top to bottom. I'm going to reduce that number because I think it's too tall to 550. Okay. Now, since I have a quit button here and I have a slider on here, be careful with this one. I don't have a quit button anymore. However, I was smart enough to put one of these on my panel bar earlier. That's my second option. And I'll show you how to add these things, including the funny looking eyeballs here in a little bit. Okay? Just having a little fun here. All right, so this is custom height, and again, you can turn these on and off. Now your places are right here. So if you don't want to see some of these icons, you can certainly slide them off. So that concludes the main Mint menu. Now let's talk about the panel bar. You can see that it's semi-see-through. I am going to take a look at some of the wallpapers. I added some of my own, but this one here is also a new one. You can see the path. It says Linux Mint-Virginia as the last. So this is another one. It's very nice. I'm going to leave that for right now. Right click, and we're going to do I want to do the goofy toys first? Why not? All right, so basically you have all kinds of toys you can toss on there. And we have lots of things. This is called eyes. This is the little toy that I have sitting here. Okay, annoying you probably. All right, so basically I'm going to remove it. And then I'm going to drag it back downstairs. Okay, you can also basically just get rid of that. And sorry. I can either move it. I'll stick them right over here. And then this one here is normally not here either. Scrolling down, we have a logout key if you like, but there's the shutdown. Since this is a Mate desktop, you can pretty much put these where you want them in here. If the click and drag method doesn't work, you can right click and hit move, okay? So lots of toys, add to panel. I'll leave it just like it is. Let me talk a little bit about icons. So there's a difference on your icons versus the Cinnamon. I'll just grab pics and toss it on here. If you're on a Cinnamon desktop, normally you cannot do this. It'll give you a blue box and you'll have to either restart Cinnamon or log in and out to get rid of that blue box. You normally add to desktop on a Cinnamon desktop. You can do the same thing here. If you add to panel, by the way, it will put it down here. And you can move that actually later. You can also, here, I'll give you the example. I'll move it over here. Okay, then I'll get rid of it. You can also do it this way. What were we using? Graphics, pics. You can also directly just drag it down there. So a couple of different ways to think about icons. I'm going to put a couple more on the desktop. I'm only going to show you this for a reason. I'll put in 3. All right. Right click, resize icon. So unlike the Cinnamon desktop, Monte will allow you to resize icons independently. Well, to a certain stage, but if you don't like the size of the icon, you right-click and resize it. There's the resizer bars. That's maximum, that's minimum. Okay. Why am I clicking and dragging? Because I'm multi-selecting. And I'm going to hit delete. So the panel bar itself, under properties, the height of the box is determined by this number, all again subjected to your screen res. You want to make it taller, increase that number. You want to auto hide, you can do that. Okay. Turn that off. The background, I have this selected as a solid color with a transparency on it. Now I have see-through icons. Not so much. And in between. This is selectable. Okay. You can also put a background image. So that's panel properties. Standard calendar. Again, right-click, preferences. You can change your formats. I'll click that again. The volume thing. Right-click, sound properties. Wireless thing. Updater can be done by refreshing if you need to check for updates right away. Microphone thing, Bluetooth thing, simple screen recorder because I have this panel so high that it's stacked, and of course goofy eyeball guy, and then the shutdown with a timer of 60 seconds. Both of them have 60 seconds on them. I'll move this over. Simple screen is what I'm using to record. File manager I'll come back to. Terminal, you can also install software. Firefox, minimize your, or if you got stuff that's open, you just do that in a hurry if you like. And I added VLC, so again I could remove that. So it's normally not here. And then of course you can right click, do the preferences and put text in here if you like. Let's talk about your file manager. And sorry folks, for the ones that are my subscribers, I'm going to rehash the stuff that I normally do just because of the fact I never know when I have a viewer. So I'm going to first start with edit, preferences, and then walking across behavior is double click, display, list columns, you can add more goodies, preview. You may want to check the investigating factor of if you have it sitting here and your thumbnails are not pulling in, you may want to crank that to 4G, at least check it, gigabyte, and so forth and so on. All right, you can resize that part. Resizing icons in here is done multiple ways. I'm going to hold down my control key. Again, I'm using a regular computer mouse with a scroll wheel. Holding down the control key, scrolling back and forth to resize icons in a hurry. You can certainly do it the old-fashioned way. All right, and I will talk a little bit about, where's my pictures? There we are. You can also set stuff as wallpaper. If I hit the space bar, this tool opens up an X-Viewer. This is a Mate desktop. You can hold down the Alt key and scroll back and forth. Okay, on an XFCE desktop, sometimes it'll zoom the whole thing, all your desktop, but not here. This is different. That's why I do these kind of videos. If you hold down the Control key and scroll back and forth, it resizes the icons in your file manager. Okay, but again, I'm going to open this by double clicking and it still opens it in the same tool. It's Xviewer that way, or even if I hit spacebar, it's Xviewer. Again, if you need to zoom, use the Alt key and scroll. And you can also use the old-fashioned way. Okay, normal size and close. The box itself is, you can double click on this imaginary line. I've shown this many times. It's the same thing as clicking that. I'm going to pull it down and I'm going to push it up. Pull it down, push it up. I'm clicking and holding. Okay, it's a lot harder to do on a touchpad. It's a lot easier to do with a standard mouse. Even on a laptop, I prefer a regular mouse, but sometimes I don't have that luxury. But on a tower computer, I do, and I like this feature. Double click. Okay, now I'm going to show you another feature. If you're trying to copy stuff into, like I have a USB hard drive here, for instance, and I wanted to make 2 windows in a hurry. What I'm going to do here is, Sam is our user for today. It's just a made-up name. I'm going to take the box and slam it into the wall here. And it makes a complete top to bottom. And then I'm going to use Ctrl N as in Nancy and do the same thing with this box. Now I have 2 panes to play with. And then I can drag and drop files back and forth. Okay, just wanted to show you that feature. It's very easy to do. You can also use another feature. It's called Extra Pane, which is F3. And it'll split this in half. These halves are independently resized, holding down the Control key while scrolling. I'll use that from the USB stick, and I'll open up documents on this one and then drag that across. It makes a copy. I'm not moving the file because I'm going from my local folder into a device. If you are going from your downloads in this area to documents, then it'll be moving the file by clicking and dragging. Hopefully that was understood. Anytime you drag an object from a folder to a device, it's a copy process. F3. Okay, if you haven't seen any of my videos, these are tar backups. I have many ways to back up things nowadays. We have rsync, grsync, rsync with script files. We also have tar backups, tape archive. These are not compressed. And all kinds of things. You have lots of tools built into your file manager if you didn't know that. Anyways, where am I at this point? I have 2 Firefoxes open. Let me just give you an example of this one. This is Firefox. If you hold down your Control key, as long as your pointer is underneath this line, you can resize that to 30% and all the way up to 500. And normally it remembers your page also. I'll do this with Linux Mint's website. It's at 120. I'll increase that to 180. And I'm going to go back. This is at 80%, and I'll go back to Mint, and it's still 180. I'll pull that one down also and close. If you have a middle click button on your computer mouse, you can open up tabs, just like I'm doing now. Okay, and you can also middle click to close these tabs if your mouse supports it. Computer mouse. Thank you for watching.